Welcome to New Life Live with host and founder of New Life Ministries, Stephen Arterburn. For 35 years, New Life has been transforming lives one at a time thanks to the giving hearts of you, our listeners. Our goal is to provide you with wisdom from God's Word to give you hope and help in life's hardest places. If you have a question you'd like to ask today, our phone lines are open. Call 1-800-229-3000. That number again is 1-800-229-3000. Now here's Steve.
Hi there, and welcome to New Life Live. Really glad you're with us here today. 1-800-229-3000. I've got Dr. Alice Benton right there. There she is. And Marc Cameron right here. There he is.
I'm here. There you are, Alice.
Mostly.
Hey,
I'm
guys.
mostly here.
So you guys know that we have Intimacy in Marriage coming up, and that's October 20th in Dallas. Sometimes people come because their sex life, the physical part of it, is just so bad, it's preventing them from coming together in any way, or one is so upset about it. Now, we address so much more than physical intimacy. It's every kind of intimacy, spiritual, emotional. But what do you guys, when you're in your practice and somebody, there's something wrong in this gift that God has given us, the gift of sex, what do you tell that person, or what are you questioning? What do you do?
One of the first and maybe most difficult initial steps is being willing to even talk about it. We can watch it, it's splashed all over billboards, it's everywhere, but it's so difficult for married spouses to be able to talk about it, especially with what's going wrong, what the preferences are, what injuries there have been in the sexual intimacy side of the relationship. And we know that in the normal trajectory of most marriages, once you have children, once bodies start to change, as medical problems come up, it becomes more difficult. And yet most of us can't even talk about it. So we have what's called a meta conversation, where you start talking about it. What would it be like if we talked about it? What emotions would you have? What would be the obstacles? And oddly enough, that meta conversation generally increases the comfort level and the willingness to start getting into the meat of the conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so you start talking about how difficult it is to talk about.
Yes.
And that's often as it starts. And I, if a couple doesn't bring it up, I make sure that I take responsibility to bring it up and check in with them about it, because you can't progress the emotional without progressing the physical, and vice versa, right? Both of those things go together, and God has designed sex, not just for procrastination, but for pleasure, for intimacy building. And we know a whole host of things go on in the brain, right? Chemicals get released where we feel bonded to each other. And so if we are broken in that area in our marriage, we should set about seeking healing. God designs only good things, right? And he has designed sex. And so he wants us to use that in a way that benefits us, and that we experience pleasure and goodness from.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's so difficult to talk about, especially, I think, for men. It's so difficult. But if there's a problem, if you work on it and you find a way back to each other, the benefits are so great, as you were saying, Marc, because it really does form a bond and a connection that's intended by God. And so many times the equipment, quote unquote equipment, doesn't work the same, but it doesn't mean that you couldn't have a fulfilling sexual experience, even if intercourse isn't possible, or just a lot of things, a lot of options when you start to look at what can be versus what can't be, or what is, or what was. All right, well, we're going to take a break and come back and go to your phone calls, and I think we'll just go to Betty from Peoria first. You're listening to New Life Live. Dr. Alice Benton, Marc Cameron, Steve Arterburn here. We love getting to help you. And if you need some help beyond what radio can do, 1-800-NEW-LIFE connects you with some amazing people that woke up this morning and just wanted to help some folks get the help they need. 1-800-NEW-LIFE.
It had become very apparent that some of the things I was involved with were taking over my life.
In today's world, men are barraged with inappropriate content and images all day, every day. Some say that certain behaviors are just no big deal. It's just part of being a guy. But it's simply not true. It's a battleground for every man, and the opportunities to fail are everywhere. New Life's Every Man's Battle Workshop can help.
After 7 years, just one weekend, a completely changed man.
For over 20 years, New Life Ministries has been helping men regain their integrity and purity through their one-of-a-kind Every Man's Battle Workshop.
He said, I think this is something that every man should go to. Married, dating, it was definitely life-changing.
Now the workshop is coming to Washington, D.C. November 4th through the 6th. Don't wait for him to call. To find out more, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or go to newlife.com.
I just can't say enough of what New Life has done for our marriage.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We're back to Steve Arterburn here. By the way, if you are a guy and you know how uncomfortable it is to bring this up, I'm the guy whose wife said, hey, we need to go get some help in this area because you need help. So I did. It made things better. By the way, Monday, special guest, author and social researcher, Shaunti Feldhahn. Now, I don't know if you've ever read anything or heard her, but she is amazing. Now, her book is Secrets of Sex and Marriage, and for 2 hours, we'll take your calls with her. But boy, has she ever done some great work, and she'll be here on Monday. But right now, we're going to go talk to Betty. And hi, Betty, you're on. She listens on WPEO. Hi there.
Hi. I don't normally listen to your program, but I happen to have it on. And my question is about a niece who's for a long time been helping her father, who somewhere in the marriage and afterwards, his lifelong not being happy with anything has gotten to, he's got dementia now, and he's burned his bridges behind him with different nursing homes and senior living, beautiful places in Georgia, and got to a home in someplace in Atlanta, and he tried to run away, and he got into the hospital, and my niece had a hard time finding him. She'd like to keep in touch, even though he growls at her when she tries to. So,
how could we help in that situation? What were you hoping we could help you with?
I'm not sure. I hear people say you should set boundaries. Well, the boundaries have already been set without her trying to set them, and. But some close people say, well, she ought to really try to get her father. But if the traffic is too bad for her to drive into Atlanta, she can't. Yeah. And he ran away this last time, and is still in the hospital, I think. And but she gets this flack, that it's her father. She's got to love him, but. Every time she would go, she'd get, chewed out. So, but she looks after his affairs otherwise.
Yeah. So, you never, when it says honor your father and mother, you don't want to honor what's dishonorable. Mm-hmm. You also don't want to put yourself in danger with somebody that can be abusive. So,
right.
I think her taking care of his affairs is great. And I wish that the medical teams had done something that would be more protective of him. Sometimes a person like that needs to be committed to a place where they can't leave and they can't get hurt or hurt other people. Alice, what do you think?
Betty, is he your brother or brother-in-law?
Brother-in-law.
And are you close with your niece? Would you give us a description of your relationship with her?
Oh yeah, she babysat for my children. I'm 81, and his wife, my sister-in-law, died in her 90s, and he's hung on all this time. They moved to Georgia so he could be near his other daughters and even see his grandchildren. And at first it was wonderful, but not for long. That's the way he goes, you know. He likes the new things, and then he wants to go back where he lived before, and he tries to run away. And this last time he was running away and got hurt, and they had to bring him back to where he was living and put him in a bear hug. I don't know what that is, but a restraint. And he complained about his back, so he got into the emergency and not home yet.
So he's a pretty complicated. He's in a complicated state right now, and it's difficult interacting with him. And you said your niece gets a lot of flack for not having more contact with him. Who in the family is criticizing her for what she's doing?
Well, a sister-in-law. Well, it would be aunt-in-law. Yeah, but she's in her 90s, but when she had a bright mind, she just tell her. She said, I like to talk to her, but I don't talk about my problems because she tells me I gotta keep seeing him. And
Betty,
boundaries.
It seems like you're a more stable voice in your niece's life. And I think it's a difficult Christian concept to wrap our minds around of how do we both protect our hearts from people who are perhaps abusive, even verbally or emotionally abusive,
right,
versus how much do we sacrifice and continue to give to them. And it seems to boil down to how much do we have to limit our exposure to a person so that the times that we're on the phone with them or we're in their presence, we can reasonably be there. If we have a lot of hate and resentment in our hearts while we're there serving, that's the kind of sick love, supposedly, that God doesn't really want us to give. That's the clanging gong. And so it takes a lot of experimenting to figure out with somebody who's been abusive, who's been abrasive, it may need to be very limited contact so that what happens can still be genuine love on the part of your niece. And I'm sure she receives encouragement from you that she's giving as much as she is after what she's been through. Thank you for being that for her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just talking with her a couple of days ago, and I agree because this person who says that, you know, my niece really needs that from her. But
well, you know, I think it's important that maybe you could talk to the person that is giving her this pressure and share with her that you talked with some people that know this world, and they were saying it's really not good to encourage somebody to be in the presence of someone who is abusive, unpredictable, could act out. Mark, your thoughts here before?
Yeah, and so thanks for calling in, Betty. And I just think this is a complicated situation because, you know, her dad has been this way and now he has dementia. Right, and so there's probably he's reacting from a place that is he's not really consciously aware of what he's doing, and that's hard because sometimes people toward the end of their lives they realize, and then they make some kind of repair. And unfortunately for your niece, she's probably not going to get that. And it sounds like she is doing the most loving thing by, you know, taking care of affairs and doing what she can from afar. It does sound like her dad needs a higher level of care. And, you know, maybe what another option is if, you know, he can't be in a home or a facility would be to even be able to hire a caregiver who is familiar with working with somebody who has dementia.
And just on a real basic level, we can tell people, I don't know that he could clearly receive this with the state of his dementia, but we can tell people, when you start growling at me, when you start raising your voice, I'm going to walk out. And whether or not they receive that information, it sets for us the standard that we then follow no matter what they're doing. Oh, you're growling at me. Oh, that's too bad. You're raising your voice. I will see you later. And we walk away to protect our heart.
Right.
Yeah. By the way, is she the only child that's living?
No, she has two sisters. One is going through a divorce because she married likes Mary likes sometimes.
Okay, and then what is the other
different.
situation?
Her husband passed away, and she married a very controlling man too. So,
Well, I think
but-
that there needs to be encouragement of those two to step up, no matter what their situation is, and help out. So usually the one that is either seen as easily manipulated is looked at, or the one that just takes care of stuff because they're responsible. Either way, it's not fair. And I think you could be a voice that maybe she's not willing to be. You could help encourage people to encourage her in the right direction. Any other thoughts either of you have? And I'm really sad for your niece and sad for her father.
Well, I know God answers prayer, and we've been praying for this a long time. But I just wanted to reach out, for her sake. And
well, I'm glad you did. And
Thank you.
I think you have a strong voice, a solid voice that can help her with some of these other people that are giving her really, I think it's inappropriate advice, because I just would hate to be telling someone to jump right back into a situation where there's been abuse and she's just even afraid to be around it. All right, I'm really glad you called, and I'll send you 1 Year Bible for Women, and I hope that that'll be a blessing to you. Right now, let's go to Ann. She's calling from Fairfax, Virginia. WAVA is the station. Ann, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you guys?
Doing okay. What's going on?
Good. Well, I would like to know if my husband is gaslighting me, and also if I'm the problem, and also what my responsibilities are in as far as the relationship goes if he is gaslighting.
Okay. And why do you think he's gaslighting? What's going on there?
Well, like, for instance, this morning we had a conversation, and I mentioned we have some kids with health issues, and I had asked for him if he could handle breakfast in the morning because we've got some dietary restrictions, and handling all 3 meals was just very stressful for me. And so he took that on. So I happened to mention something like, we kind of moved towards just letting the kids have cereal every morning, which is, they start to have some issues. It's fine in general. It's nothing critical, but just if we could kind of get back on track with fruits and vegetables and something a little healthier. And so he said he felt attacked. And then I said, hey, I feel like I need to be able to bring these things up and we, have a discussion about it. But I don't feel like I can bring these things up. And I feel like if I do bring them up, he gets upset. But he will commit to taking on a responsibility, but then he doesn't do it. And so I feel like I need to take it all back or step in because I don't feel like I could say something and then have him take it back. In the past, he's lied about what I think are some pretty major things, and so there's some trust issues. And I don't know how often he lies, but in the past there have been some instances where I've had to really pull and dig, and he's denied, and then he's come out and said, oh, yes. We had some financial things from last year where I found he hadn't been keeping track of them. So he has a little side business buying land, and I was asking, it seems like we're kind of tight on funds, on finances, and how much money is going out in this business. And he didn't really know, or he said he didn't know. Well, come to find out it was $55,000.
Well, Ann,
a lot.
I think you got a big problem on your hands. I want to clarify something, though. The movie where gaslighting was occurring, it was the husband was changing, like when he would say, I'm going to go out. Well, he was staying in the house, but he was changing how bright the lights were and doing things to literally make her believe she was mentally ill or unstable. And
Yes.
it's a really unique phenomena, but it's not exactly the same as just lying. It's a little more devious
no, I think that
than.
happens also.
Yeah. So I don't know if this is gaslighting, but he is absolutely not telling you the truth. So we'll try to help you with that when we come back. And well, if anybody else needs some help, it's 1-800-229-3000, or you just call one of the folks waiting to talk with you at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We'll be back right after this for more New Life Live.
The Life Recovery Connection Conference is online Saturday, October 7th. The topics addressed aren't just for people with alcohol or drug addictions, but for anyone who wants to move from the pain and the struggles of the past towards a healthier and happier future. Steve Arterburn, Becky Brown, and other experts will present new material on topics like reclaiming your calling, small group best practices, self-care, discipleship, sponsoring and mentoring, understanding and loving an addict or alcoholic, the history of the 12 steps, and much more. Plus, there are interactive breakout groups led by the conference presenters. To register or to find out more about the New Life Recovery Connection Conference, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE or visit liferecoverygroups.com. Get help to successfully walk your recovery journey as well as go alongside others in need of help. 1-800-639-5433 or liferecoverygroups.com.
I've been listening to New Life for many years, gone to a few workshops. I want to support a ministry that helps people connect with God and with others and gives them the tools to help transform their lives.
You can help New Life Live stay on the air by joining Club New Life today. When you sign up to support us monthly through Club New Life, we'll send you the new member thank you gift of all 8 100-day devotionals, including 100 Days of Healing, 100 Days from Freedom from Shame, and 100 Days of Freedom from Anger. There are also ongoing benefits like the monthly Club New Life CD or download, access to the Club New Life video library, quarterly resources, free shipping on purchased resources, discounts on workshops, and quarterly online meetings with Steve. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Support Club New Life, and together we can help hurting people find help and hope in life's hardest places. Call 1-800-639-5433 to join Club New Life today. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question or a comment, call toll-free 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We are back. We talked a little bit about this at the break. Mark, why don't you start us off helping Ann with the situation?
Yeah, and so far from what I heard, I didn't hear something that might fall within the definition of gaslighting. Usually people who gaslight, as Steve was alluding to here, they're trying to cover something up. They're hiding something, and they're trying to make the other person feel crazy so that they stop asking about it. And I'm not sure that I heard that so far in your story, but what I did like about how you started is you were asking, what might be your side of the problem here. And
Yep.
Have you guys ever been to counseling together?
Yes, but it was unproductive because when the counselor would ask, how are things, he'd put his arm around me and say, everything's great.
Yeah. So
And
then,
it felt like a waste of money.
Okay, but then you didn't say, honey, it isn't great. That's why we're here. I know you want it to be great, but I just can't let us continue with this counselor believing that it's great. It's not great for me. Now, here's a question. Why didn't you say something when he put his arm around you and said, everything's great?
I have, and I feel like he lied to the counselor and tried to make me look like the crazy one. He denied a lot of things that were flat out not, he denied things that were true. And when I tried to tell the counselor that he's been lying to me, he just denied it. And he comes across as a very sweet person, and I think people believe him. About the gaslighting, I think maybe I got caught up talking too much, but I think so the usual dance between us is, I say something, and then he usually says things like, I just can't talk to you. See, you get mad. You don't accept me the way God made me. I had to lie to you because I'm trying to save our marriage, or I had to lie to you because I knew you'd get mad, things like that. And then I feel like the bad person.
Yeah, so it sounds like he's afraid of your anger, and sometimes people are dishonest to avoid conflict. It's not that they're wanting to intentionally deceive when they lie. It's they're lying for self-preservation to avoid the conflict. And so I wonder if your husband has maybe some pleaser tendencies. And if you haven't read the book How We Love, I would recommend that to you, and then to try.
I can send that.
Yeah, and then to find a counselor, and we can maybe try and help you find someone in your area who's familiar with attachment-based couples work to help you guys understand, the way that you guys may have been imprinted in your relationship to relate to each other. And I like what you said here too. You're talking about the dance. I do think it's really important for every couple to understand what their dance is or what their conflict pattern is, because once you can identify and understand it, then you can interrupt it. And so I would recommend for you to sign up for Intimacy in Marriage that we've got coming up, because we talk a lot about attachment and the attachment styles, and we'll help you identify those styles that you guys are in.
Now, just to be clear, we're not minimizing the fact that he lies. In other words, if he's lying because he's afraid, well, that's not an excuse making the lying
Correct.
okay. It's just trying to understand that that's his reaction. And the gaslighting thing really is a very complicated and intricate attempt to make the person feel like, not that they're the problem, but that beyond the problem, they're just not stable, and they can't trust themselves. I think that's probably the
right.
message.
But it's also to understand here, Steve, for Anne, what part she might be playing to make it safer for her husband to be able to engage in a conversation where it feels less conflictual for him and less anxiety producing, where he can be honest with you without fear of upsetting you or your anger.
Good point.
And
Alice, your thoughts?
Having lived with his lies and his omission for years, of course you're going to be ramped up about this. And you're trying to deal with several children who have some health issues. So, of course, you've got some anger about his lying, and it's hard to talk to him about it because he makes it pretty impossible to talk with him about it. So you can hear, I'm a little upset myself hearing about this pattern you have to live with. And yet, we're sharing something with you that gives you some more power, because if it's all 100% his fault, then you have very little ability to do much about it, especially as he continues to deny and minimize and justify what he does.
Right.
But, Anne, as you ask that fabulous question, am I the problem? We're all part of the problem because we're all imperfect at times. And I want to share with you a ratio. It's called the 5-to-1 ratio. And this comes from John Gottman. He's a marriage researcher. And he says that for a spouse to be able to receive negative feedback about themselves, they really have to hear about 5 positives to be able to take in 1 negative. Now, your husband may have set up an impossible situation, because if he's lied and treated you like this from the very beginning, there may have been little to nothing positive to give to him. But we women, we should always take that humble look at ourselves, and that you're willing to maybe there are times I didn't approach this as well as I could have or should have. Maybe I stopped therapy too quickly. I don't know what those answers are, but your willingness to work on yourself makes it more likely that your husband might return to working on himself. His lying is not your fault, but there are things we wives can do differently to help influence our husbands to become the men they should be, that God created them to be.
I'm going to send you Sherry Keffer's book, Intimate Deception. I don't know if he has a sexual hang-up or porn addiction or whatever, But I know the deception part of that book could really help you understand what's going on.
For most of my life, I've been dealing with an opiate addiction.
Why is opioid addiction quickly becoming one of our nation's biggest killers? Maybe it's because it isn't only those who are addicted who are in denial.
We did what I see so many parents do, is it can't be an addiction. There's something medically wrong.
It's impossible to solve a problem when you don't know what you're up against, and families will try to find any explanation except the one that will put them on the right path.
Alcoholism and drug addiction is a family disease. It doesn't affect just the individual.
If someone you love is abusing painkillers, know what you're up against. It's time to admit it's addiction and seek treatment. Call us today at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We have Christ-centered partner treatment centers around the country. Call 1-800-639-5433 or visit us online at newlife.com.
We just made a decision. We will do whatever it takes.
1-800-NEW-LIFE. Chris Williams on coaching.
Oftentimes I get asked, what is the difference between therapy and coaching? The biggest difference between the two is that a therapist is going to be looking for a diagnosable mental health condition, whereas a coach is going to look at a particular issue and help a person work through that.
If you need a coach, call New Life today and ask about the New Life Coaching Network. Our coaches have been trained and screened with the same intensive process we use for our network counselors.
If you're looking at an issue in your life that you just kind of want to change, whether it be your weight or leadership or other areas of behavioral patterns, check out coaching. There can be some really, really helpful things for you.
Take control of your life and take action to achieve your goals. Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433 and talk to us about getting a New Life coach. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. We're glad you joined us for New Life Live. To be a part of the program, call 1-800-229-3000. Now back to New Life Live.
We are back. Steve Arterburn here, and before we go to this next phone call, Larry Sonnenberg is in the studio. Larry, what do you have for us today?
Well, Steve, it's kind of a combination here. I've been always looking for people to support us financially, but I want to really give an affirmation to this radio program at the same time and Every Man's Battle. There's a testimony I've used before on the air, and I glanced at it this morning. It came across when I was looking through them. And so I called the lady, because this testimony was 4 years ago. So I called the lady to see, how's the marriage going? How are you guys doing? Would you be willing to share a little more 4 years later? And she doesn't want to do it publicly, but she shared with me a whole lot of stuff. And let me just give you a quick thumbnail of this testimony. If it wasn't for New Life and what I've learned about sexual addiction, I don't think I would have had the knowledge about the battle or the courage to insist that my husband go to Every Man's Battle workshop. I know it was God's perfect timing. I really feel our marriage has been saved. I'd come to the point where I wasn't even sure I wanted to continue in our 37-year marriage. But I know the Lord hates divorce. So she goes on to say how she wasn't attracted to him. She didn't want to spend time with him. She was disconnected, didn't have fun anymore. And she had had 3 years of pretty strong depression. But she says, after the workshop, he confessed to something that I could never have imagined. I was overcome with compassion for him that I know came from the Lord. Now, what she shared with me on the phone call was his confession. She said, I thought it was going to be an affair. It was that he had lost his job and he was afraid to tell me.
Oh. Wow.
And so she said, I feel like a new person. He looks like a weight's been lifted off his shoulders. I know he's a lot of work to do. He's in sustained victory every week. Still. And so she says the marriage has been healed by the Lord through New Life Ministries. And she says, God bless, and she names all the radio hosts.
Mm-hmm.
And
That's pretty sweet right there. I mean,
the final thing she said is she wants to join Club New Life.
Okay.
So I can take this all in. This is all good stuff. But
yes, it is.
Anyway, folks, join Club New Life. Tell your husband he's got to go. She said at one point, I told him our marriage is over unless you go to Every Man's Battle. And she learned that from listening to the program. She said, I grew so much listening to this radio program that it's unbelievable. And God bless you guys for your radio program.
Well, I'm glad you brought that, because how many years ago was that?
4 years ago.
4 years ago. So there's transformation, there's healing, and then it gets better and better.
Yeah, it keeps going.
And one of the things that I think happens is when you come to Every Man's Battle, you go from trying to stop something that you know isn't good. You know it's not good. But you haven't been able to stop it. But you really go from just trying to stop it to wanting to be a godly man, wanting to restore your relationship with God and your wife, versus give me some techniques on how not to do this. It's truly an amazing transformational experience, and so many guys don't go until the wife makes that first phone call. What else do you have there, Larry?
We have a matching gift going on. This is a recorded program, so I can't give you an update, but it's growing, but we need more. We're not halfway there yet. And if you could help us, every gift you give will be doubled. That's really important to us. So if you're thinking of making a year-end gift, could you make it now?
Yeah.
It'd be really helpful. It'll be doubled. If you typically give a little extra at year-end, and you could give a little extra now, it'll be doubled, and it'll be helpful. Not just to New Life, it's going to be helpful to all those people that get the help that they get. The people that listen to the program that have the strength to talk to their husband, like we just talked about.
Yeah. Please do help if you possibly can, and that number is 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Please help us, and we're grateful for all of you who do. In fact, Club New Life, on October 12th, we're having our quarterly Zoom meeting where you hear some great stuff, and then we're just family, and we're talking about different issues. Anybody can ask anything. And so that's for our Club New Life members, and would love for you to be part of it. Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
Appreciate that always. Let's go to, I believe her name is Sierra. Seattle, Washington, listens on Sirius XM satellite radio. Hi there, how are you?
I'm fine. I'm just so glad to be on here with you guys.
Thank you for calling. How could we help?
Well, I wanted to know, what boundaries do I set with my ex-husband, who's verbally abusive to my kids? And it was pretty bad because on my son's 14th birthday, my ex-husband, in the middle of a restaurant, basically told my son off and used obscenities and everything. I wasn't there because I didn't go with him, but my son cried at the restaurant, and then he came back to me just sobbing and weeping. And I haven't even seen my 14-year-old son cry since he was about 7 years old or so. So I just want to know, what is your take on that, and what do you recommend?
I'll just get us started here. It would be such a sad thing for the 14-year-old to be put back in that same situation. Would you agree?
Right, definitely.
So what can mom do to make sure your son is not in that situation? Well,
yeah.
Seems like to me you're going to have to do some things you probably don't want to do. Otherwise, your son is going to be angry at you for not protecting him. That's usually the way it works out. The bad guy kind of gets a pass, but mom they're just counting on you to, here, help me, you're my mother. Don't throw me back in there. And so that may require going back into court and getting a different kind of custody agreement where your son is never with him like that. Supervised visitation is a reality that saves a lot of kids, and then no visitation is also a reality that saves a lot of kids. Alice, your thoughts, and then you, Mark.
Sierra, is this a one-time event, or does he have a history of being abusive in this way and maybe even in other ways?
Yeah, that's a good question. Well, I do have primary custody of kids, so my ex-husband doesn't see them very often. And so at this point, what I was basically allowing him to do was just take the kids out and just go to a restaurant and then bring them back home. Don't have them overnight. But there has been instances where, yes, he was verbally abusive. Probably it wasn't until about a year ago or so. And then what I normally have done is I've normally have taken like about a month's break and said, even though he's supposed to see them every other weekend, I just said, look, the kids are going to have to wait a month or two to be able to see you again. And he agrees. He's amicable with that. And so this just happened, and it just was over the top. But no, he does have a history of just obscenities and just vile language like that, yes.
So imagine if your child never had to think about having to do that, whether it's 2 weeks from now or a month from now. I would still feel a lot of anxiety if it wasn't resolved. Go ahead, Alice.
Yes.
Sierra, what's the quality of your co-parenting relationship with your ex-husband? Can you guys sit down and talk about things together?
Not really. When we were discussing this, he tends to not take any responsibility. For example, my children's grandfather, who has cancer, was with him during the lunch. And so he seemed to sort of pass off that responsibility, saying, well, my dad was there, and my dad was just going through a hard time. And so he likes to make an excuse saying, my dad's going through cancer, I'm going through a hard time. He doesn't really ever take responsibility, although he did email my son, and he said, I'm sorry for what happened, but then he didn't explain what he was sorry for.
Yeah.
So he didn't give a real full explanation.
So what do you think, Mark? I mean...
Yeah, so I got some thoughts here. The music's playing here, but I think where I would start here, Sierra, is inviting your husband to have a conversation and talk about just the incident that just happened and just say, hey, I just want to chat with you about what happened at lunch the other day. This is how son felt, and he was really upset when he came home. And this is what I got out of him, and this is what I told him, right? So yeah. I think I would start with that. We've only got a couple of seconds here before we're going to cut off. So when we come back, I got another thought for you too.
Okay, and then after that, we're going to talk to David from Santa Barbara. You're listening to New Life Live. You need some help. 1-800-NEW-LIFE is the number to call. We'll be back.
We all face days where life throws us a curveball and our routines or plans get disrupted. Things we wanted to do are forced to take a backseat to the unexpected demands of the day. If you normally listen to New Life Live on a radio station, well, you might not be able to that day. And on these hectic days when you're feeling stressed or frazzled, hearing the sound of counsel given on New Life Live is just what you need to navigate the unexpected things of life.
Every time I'm troubled or I have a problem, I'll cut on New Life, and there's always something that is said that is helpful to me.
By listening, I have learned more than I can ever express about how God wants me to live.
Download the New Life app for the easiest way to listen wherever you are and at a time that's convenient for you, or watch the show on our YouTube channel. You can even subscribe to our podcast from your favorite podcast provider. You never have to miss a day of New Life. Wherever you are, we are.
I was sort of vaguely familiar that the 12 steps had some origination in the Bible. I found Life Recovery, and one of the things I liked so much was that it had such a broad appeal. It wasn't limited to just alcohol or drugs, that it was addressing a wide range of problems.
At New Life, we believe everyone can benefit from a life recovery experience. There are life recovery groups all over the country. They take place online, in conference calls, and in person. And if there isn't one in your area, we can help you start one. We have startup materials, leaders' guides, CDs, Bibles, and more, all with discounts available for groups. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE and ask for Terry Ward. The 12 steps have long been a great help to people in recovery because much of the 12 steps' power comes from the fact that they capture principles clearly revealed in the Bible.
The 12 steps is really a pattern for all of us as Christians.
Call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433. To find out more information about New Life or to order any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. Now back to New Life Live.
We are back. So we're talking here with Sierra, and Mark, you had a couple of things before we go to David.
Yeah, so here's the other part of what I was going to say, Sierra. So have that conversation initially with your ex-husband, because Steve's right. Kids need the other parent to step in. When behavior becomes inappropriate from the other parent. But then this is what I would do. I would go to your son, hear him out on his emotions, and then I would say to him, hey, it's not okay what dad is doing or what dad did. And then I would say, I've spoken to dad about that. And then I would role play with your son. Say, okay, let's practice a situation. If dad says this, I want to give you permission that you can say this to dad, right? You can say, hey, dad, I really don't like how you're yelling at me and it's making me feel scared. Could you please stop? Something along those lines that is healthy and appropriate, and that could be a boundary that he could set with his dad without being disrespectful. And I would let dad know that. I've given him permission to say that. And then if things continue from there, as Steve was saying, and it sounds like you have primary custody, you might then set more boundaries to limit interactions and visitation from there.
Well,
yeah, that's good. Unfortunately, I've always the key words I've told them are, you call me and I'll come get you right at that exact moment. And he doesn't even quite have his cell phone yet, or he didn't have his cell phone on him. So when he asked his father, "Can I borrow your cell phone? Can I call my mom on your cell phone?" He said no. So it's almost like every time he's with his dad, it's like he doesn't have a voice.
Sierra, all the more reason you need to protect your son from being in those situations. All the more reason. Everything you've said says you need to do more than less for the sake of your son. And any kind of fear you have of the ex needs to be dealt with, because it might be preventing you from stepping in and doing the tough thing. Alice, do you have anything you want to add real quick?
Sierra, ask that your ex-husband go to therapy, and his willingness to do so and to work on this particular issue gives you some information about whether or not he would become safer. But right now it seems like he's in too much denial.
Yeah, I agree. All right. Really sorry for what you're going through, and I'm going to send you Take Your Life Back, and I hope that can help you be the strong mom that your son needs. Right now we're going to go to David, and he is calling from Santa Barbara. Hi, David, and welcome to New Life. How you doing?
I'm just having a lot of struggles with my life in the past after coming to God. Struggling to be kind of on and off. Struggling to read and write and study and everything like that. And
so,
when I first came to God, I was excited to read the Word.
Yeah.
I had trouble with drinking alcohol before coming to God. All I remember is I prayed to God. I didn't remember what I prayed for, but I remember shortly after that I felt this kind of like spirit of love or whatever just coming over me instantaneously, and I was just thanking God over and over again. And I felt like a new creature and everything, and things were happening in my life.
Did you go back to drinking?
Well, after a year and a half, I went back to drinking.
Okay.
I'm sober now for over 3 years.
Oh,
at the time I fell back on my drinking. I came across this this girl that I came across during my backsliding. She was like homeless, and stuff, and just ended up, whatever you could think of and all that stuff.
And David, I'm gonna jump in. So we hear that you're struggling to stay active in your faith, although now you're sober. Just because we're running down on time, what can we help you with, David?
Give us a question that we can do.
I feel like I try to read the Word and everything. I don't feel led or guided by God. I feel like my heart's been darkened.
Okay.
I've gotten to the point of self-harm and stuff, and I'm going to talk to a Christian counselor tomorrow.
Okay, but let me give you because we are out of time. I want to give you a suggestion, and then we'll hear from Alice and Mark real quick. But I really believe that if you get involved with a church, then there's going to be an older man that would be willing to come alongside you and read the Bible with you, help you understand things that are hard to understand. And I think that kind of very personal connection outside the counselor's office, and I do think that you going to a counselor is a great idea, but you need that man-to-man connection right now for you to move into a different phase. Mark and Alice, either of you have an idea there.
Yeah, David, I'm also wondering if maybe you've got some depression going on, and so I'm so glad that you're going to be seeing a counselor tomorrow. But I also recommend checking in with your physician and just letting them know, just go in for an emotional check, let them know what's been happening in your life and that you're still struggling and you feel a little bit hopeless at times because, possibly, there could be some medication that could help you too, just in this moment, just to be able to find some relief, to be able to build some momentum and just as a catalyst for growth.
Alice, a final comment here.
David, in addition to what the men have said, when we struggle to form good habits or to keep that initial excitement you had when you first became a believer, it usually does mean we need more relationships because God's design is that we grow with other people. We're supposed to be iron that sharpens iron. And when we confess, other people can pray for us. They can help hold us accountable. And that's how we gain the strength and the power to be able to reset those good habits. So that can come in a group in addition to what Steve and Mark have recommended for you.
Mm-hmm. All right. I want to send you Life Recovery Bible. I think that can speak to you because everything in there speaks to a person who's had some kind of addiction problem, and I'll send that right off to you. And I'm really glad you called, and I feel the burden that you have, and we want you to be able to be free again and feel good about your relationship with God. And sometimes if we lose touch in relationship, shame upon shame starts to build up inside of us. And that's not from God, that's from Satan. So I hope that this is going to help. So many people don't know where to turn. And they can always turn to us. And we don't just pray. We don't just read a scripture. We really want them to get the resource they need, which could be a counselor, a coach, a book, video, something. And it might mean going to an intensive or an experience that could change everything. If you need help, we will do our best to get you the right kind of help at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. I want to mention, of course, Every Man's Battle is October 6th, coming right up. And our Life Recovery Connection is October 7th, right in the middle of that. So please, if you've not signed up, please do come join us for Life Recovery. Also, about a month from now, October 27, 28, is the Lumina event for women at the Museum of the Bible. 2 days, going to be fantastic. I think there are about 100 seats left. Call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE, or you could go to luminawomen.org. We love you. Thank you, Alice. Thank you, Mark. Thanks to all of you who listen, watch, and support this ministry. So grateful. 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And we'll see you next time right here on New Life Live.
Thanks for listening. We hope this program has helped you by giving you insights for handling the challenges you face in your life. We want you to know that we're here for you, but you also need to know that New Life Live is a listener-supported ministry. To make your donation or to get any of the resources mentioned on today's program, call 1-800-NEW-LIFE. That's 1-800-639-5433, or write to us at New Life Ministries, P.O. Box 1029, Lake Forest, California, 92609. Please join us again tomorrow for New Life Live.
Hi, thank you for watching New Life Live. You know, New Life Live is a Christian counseling program where we deal with the hard questions about life, relationships, kids, free choice, freedom of will, whatever. It's all right there on New Life Live every day, every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. If you want to call into the live broadcast, you can find the schedule on newlife.com or click the social media link right below. You can see every episode of New Life Live on the New Life YouTube channel. Watch it with a friend, watch it later. Be sure to subscribe and hit that bell so you'll never miss another episode. So if you want to listen on the go, download the app. The link is right below. And I hope if you need some information, if you want to get some help, you'll call us at 1-800-NEW-LIFE. And I'll see you next time.